Well, hello, and good morning, everyone. This is Michael again, um, and we're on the 100th Rays and Initiations webinar commentary for part 2 of the book. As I said, in a more detailed manner, the first part of the book is set forth in writing, and you can get that on Makara. So we're dealing, interestingly, with the 6th initiation, about which quite a bit is written, and there's a certain terminology we've been using. We've discovered that the path upon the way of the higher evolution that one takes as a liberated monad is not ray limited, though there are certain inclinations, and certain paths are trodden by, more frequently, let us say, by masters on certain rays. And I use the example of the large number of people whose monadic ray is the 5th, and who tread the path of magnetic work, the 2nd path. I'm always forgetting the name of that path, and I seem to remember that the ray path is trodden very much by masters on the 1st and 2nd ray, though, of course, all the rays have to be necessarily represented, and quite a bit of schooling along the Mahachohan's line on the 3rd ray helps with treading the path of planetary logoi. However, obviously, the planetary logoi that do emerge will necessarily have to be on all the rays. So, in a way, every one of those paths is open to those who have any one of the 7 rays. And with respect to the 2 additional paths that have now opened up, and about which very little is stated except that they do exist, I don't think we can say very much at all. Was that on page 412 or something, in Rays and the Initiation? So let's go on here with our work for the 6th initiation. It is of interest to have in mind also that at this 6th initiation, a great moment of basically historic interest occurs. Let's see what he means by that. All the masters who are initiates of the 6th degree meet in a conclave together, yes, every 49 years, I guess. And before making their final decision, which will probably remove them from the path of Earth service, not necessarily, decide what measures they propose the hierarchy should take, which will drastically and permanently affect the planet on which they have lived and for which they have worked. Before making their final decision, I'm going to outline this, and notice the word drastically. Well, we had such a decision in 1854, in 1903, in 1952, in 2001, and in 2050, we will have another. So we're living very much in the impulsion of the decision that was made in 2001. And some who have thought about this think that that great decision is made at the Libran full moon, because Libra rules this particular initiation, as does the 3rd ray. Yeah. Well, we do know that at this time Sanat Kumara, we're told, is retaining those who would ordinarily move on to other opportunities along the way of higher evolution, because things on this planet are in such an emergency condition. Now, we might be able to try to intuit what the great decision of 2001 was all about. Of course, it's beyond us, but we certainly have seen these issues surrounding the different types of cultures and civilizations which have to eventually live in peace with each other. And we've seen a movement towards war and intolerance. Maybe that has to come first. I think we're right in the flow of that here some 16 or so years later. This is 2017. And it seems that the decision that was made at that time strengthened the will towards separatism at first. I suppose with the point in mind to bring about the possibility of a synthesis, and maybe it will sweep out of effective presentation some of the religions, at least as they are now presented, which DK tells us are outmoded and no longer valid, antiquated, no longer useful in their present form. After all, we have to prepare for a new world religion which will be more scientific in nature and which will take into consideration various cycles which are now totally ignored by even the average intelligent person. You will notice that I have here called them initiates of the 6th degree, bringing to your minds the fact that before a man takes an initiation of any degree, he is already an initiate of that degree. Well, that's really, that is one of those statements that is very important. The initiate is initiate before the ceremony of initiation is conferred upon him. He has to prove himself, stabilize himself, and then added power and stability comes to him. They, in their totality, at any given time, are the group which makes final decision anent human affairs. So, you know, they are very powerful, and I'm sure they try to do the will of Sanat Kumara. He does have control over them, and they do obey his behests. They have a great understanding of his purpose, since they are focused on the monadic level, where the archetype of purpose can initially be found, and of course it continues onto the logoic plane and no doubt beyond. What is the purpose of Sanat Kumara probably found upon the cosmic mental plane in a purer and more comprehensive form than it can ever be found on the cosmic physical plane. So they, in their totality, however many there may be, and we don't, we know that our Chohans are among them, the Chohans with whom we are familiar, such as the Master Moria, Master Kutumi, the Maha Chohan, the Chohan Jesus, the heads of all the ashrams. We don't know yet about Master DK and whether there will be a decision, his decision to move into that initiation, but it's certainly a possibility. Anyway, he will be one of the externalizing masters teaching the methods of healing, among other things, we are told. So they make final decision anent human affairs, and every 49 years we are impulsed by that decision, and it cannot be evaded. It was a decision made by this group of initiates. This has been going on a long time, during the ancient Atlantean civilization, which brought it to an end. So again, in line, I'm sure, with the intention of the Planetary Logos, seeing that there was great corruption and it was also time to move towards a new dispensation and towards the Aryan phase of planetary development for humanity. The decision which they will make now will produce great changes in our modern civilization. Well, okay, this was anticipating the 1952 decision. Interesting, there was a statement by Foster Bailey in one of his books. I can't remember exactly which. Was it Changing Esoteric Values or Running God's Plan? One of those books, where he said about his contact with Master DK that Master DK assured him that the humanity would not be destroyed by an atomic war. When you look at some of DK's warnings in the 1940s, we're not so sure, but Foster Bailey had that kind of contact, I do believe, and was undertaking for Master Moria the same kind of position which Alice Bailey had undertaken for Master Kuthumi. It's interesting how it works. Moria and Kuthumi are so closely related, we are told, and Alice Bailey and Foster Bailey had this very purposeful marriage, which was helping to blend the effects of these two ashrams in expression on the outer plane. Anyway, this is the 1952 decision, and we've already been through another one. Well, we've certainly witnessed the development of the telecommunications, the computer, that which links the world inseparably in a kind of immediate nowness, which makes everybody a participant in the affairs of humanity and the planet in the moment. This has been one of the greatest. Of course, weaponry has also developed, but let's just say that the greatest thing is our immediate contact with each other. So I would suspect that a lot of the third ray, which is generically involved with this kind of decision, was present in a focused manner for this 1952 decision. The masters, however, do not, take this initiation whenever they are ready to make a decision. The opportunity comes to the hierarchy every 49 years, we've been saying, and the year 1952 will see a group of these higher initiates choose the path of their future livingness and being, but they will do so only, I guess the word is after, setting in motion certain forces which will creatively change matters on Earth. Now there's the ray of creative intelligence is the third ray. So, as I say, I think from the third ray ashram, in cooperation with the fifth and seventh, has come this change in our entire communications system at this 1952 initiation. And notice with the words livingness and being, the hint is there that the monad is involved. Because at this point, if we want to know how these initiates are manifesting, they are manifesting first as monads, ready to go forth along their path as monads. They may also have their lower expression, their extensions into the Brahmic worlds, the 5 lower subplanes of the cosmic physical plane, but they have returned home from their pilgrimage. So 49 years, interesting. 7 sevens, there's a certain completion in that, and it does relate to manifestation being the number 7. So obviously what they do changes the outworking of the plan considerably every 49 years, and we're in the stage right now of working something out, I hope, towards the factor of synthesis and some sort of mutual acceptance which will lead to peace, but I think not before there's a general house cleaning, which is almost inevitable. So much is coming to light under the necessary influence of Pluto, which must appear along with Vulcan before the first initiation of humanity, and that's when the Christ will reappear. His reappearance will confirm, we are told, that humanity has taken the first initiation. Anyway, matters on Earth will change, and this is manifestational language. Okay, they thereby prove 2 things. Their grasp of world need and their recognition of man's free will to make decision. They're still also in training, no question about it. No matter how high the initiate is, he is still in training. I mean, we can confine our consideration to our local cosmos system, our local cosmic logos, and our local one about whom naught may be said. Beyond that, nothing really is given. The last initiation of this kind was therefore held in 1903, and you can really see how atomic energy and the knowledge of the atom developed there. And so I'm just speculating here that atomic energy and the knowledge of the atom and of the true constitution of matter progressed immensely. And also the development of the atomic bomb, which was released in 1945, and interestingly, although nobody would have wanted to pass through that kind of on-the-ground horror, the Tibetan saw it as a very liberating moment, a liberation, striking a death blow to materialism. Those prepared to pass through this initiation were faced with the fact of the emerging forces of cosmic evil. Well, this came through Bismarck, through Germany. Bismarck was balancing Lincoln, we're told, as an avatar of materialism and an avatar for humanity of the Black Lodge. It may not have seemed so with some of the programs he put in place, but DK has a deeper understanding of this. Even those helmets that they wore, with a sort of iron antikarana, you might say. An iron spike said something symbolically. So they were faced with the fact of the emerging forces of cosmic evil. They had then to decide in what manner they should bring aid to humanity and what situation they should bring about so that mankind would be forced to recognize conditions and to make free choice and decision. And this is an amazing thing, that whatever they decided to do, and we don't know specifically because it's done on such high levels that the dynamics of what's involved in their choice are not accessible to us. What they decided to do led to the World War, 31 years, counting World War I and II together, to a demonstrated cleavage between right and wrong, between imprisonment and freedom, and which in 1952 will lead to a decision, the outcome of which is hidden in the consciousness of those who will at that time make it. So this was, some of these things were written quite late in Alice Bailey's career, because she died in Sagittarius of 1949, I think in December at some point. So these are some of the later writings. But you know, these decisions can have, as far as humanity is concerned, some rather dire effects. So what they did decide to do led to the World War, to a demonstration of cleavage. Humanity had to see more clearly what is right, what is wrong. It was a discrimination that was necessary, and hence the fifth ray was involved to a certain point. Interesting that the word, that 2003 sums to the, no, not 2003, 1903. 2003, that's incorrect. 1903, 1903, it's 13, it's 4. So 1903 sums to 13, sums to 4, which is the principle of conflict, interestingly enough. Now, 1952, what have we got? Interesting to speculate about it. 10 and 7, 17 to an 8, 2001 to a 3. Well, probably those numbers are significant in some way if we ponder them. Okay, so I'm just going to underline here the kind of importance for us of what this decision led to. Drastic on the outer plane, really, really drastic, but apparently necessary from their perspective. At this sixth initiation, I guess they what does it say here? That they make their decision, and they do something, and then they can go on their way if they are not retained by Sanat Kumara. They do not take this initiation whenever they're ready, every 49 years. Before they are removed from the path of Earth service, they decide what measures are to be proposed and which will drastically and permanently affect the planet. Wow. Those are pretty powerful words, and we can see that even though these are not Shambhala impacts, they might as well be, because these are Shambhalic beings, and they make decisions which drastically and permanently affect the planet. Well, we must say that the great floods of Atlantis, which brought that civilization to an end, drastically and permanently affected humanity and the planet. So first, they make the decision about what they will bequeath to humanity, and then they are ready to go on the path about which they have decided individually, although it's hard to call a Chohan an individual because they have so much identificatory power. You know, they're all part of each other. Yeah, so here it is. Before making their final decision, which will probably remove them from the path of Earth service, they decide what measures, first, for humanity and the planet. They decide what measures they propose the hierarchy should take, which will drastically and permanently affect the planet. And then they can move on, but none of them are at this point, we are told. We are in an amazing crisis, I think, which has so much to do with the relationship between the previous solar system and our present solar system. We're at that juncture where we can no longer abide the retardation which the dynamics of the previous solar system have been imposing upon the program of this solar system, and somehow it's working out on our planet through the decisions made and through the decision humanity is making and through the reappearance of the Christ and the externalization of the hierarchy. Our planet is so very much, in a way, a kind of hospital in which the previous tendencies of the previous solar system are adjusted so that they better fit with the program of this solar system. And we have this task to do on behalf of the entire solar system and all the planetary logos. So there's a lot of focus right now on the Earth and the initiation through which Earth is passing, a kind of fourth initiation connected with its fourth chain and fourth globe. And our sun, our solar logos, is a being of the fourth order. This is a decisive moment, really, not only in planetary history, but in solar systemic history. Well, these are big affairs, you know. At this sixth initiation, the masters who participate in it no longer come under the jurisdiction of hierarchy. In a way, it's more shambolic. They've moved out from under it. Their long connection with hierarchy is translated to a higher center and is transferred to Shambhala unless, as is the case of the Christ, they choose the path of earth service and return to work with the evolutions of our planet. Even the Buddha has done that, even though we are told mistakenly, and that he will correct his very understandable decision to remain with humanity in the not so distant future. I think I estimate towards the end of the Aquarian age. Anyway, these are shambolic beings, and there's a statement in one of the rules about Chohans that they are no longer men as are the masters. Well, the masters are in the spiritual hierarchy, and the Chohans are moving out of the influence of the spiritual hierarchy. Although, let's just say we have a number of Chohans who are head of the major ray ashrams, and of course, in those positions, they are on the path of earth service, and they, at least temporarily, and they are doing what they can to bring into manifestation the divine purpose through the divine plan. So their long connection with hierarchy, and you know, after you achieve the fifth initiation, it takes a while before this whole process of Chohanship develops, and even as an up-and-coming initiate, you are associated with hierarchy. Their long connection with the hierarchy is translated to a higher center and is translated to Shambhala, I suppose, the head center of the planet, unless, as is the case of the Christ, as in the case of the Christ, they choose the path of earth service and return to work with the evolutions of the planet. There are many such evolutions and several kingdoms in nature beside the human. Well, that is true. The mineral, vegetable, animal, the Davic kingdom, the kingdom of, well, once it's planetary lives and solar lives, they don't have to work in a remedial sense. So lower kingdoms are those which have to be rightly cultivated in relation to each other, in relation to the plan, and ultimately in relation to the purpose. So, you know, I'll just say here, the quote, they are no longer men as are the masters. Yeah. And that they should be capitalized. Okay. Now, the sixth initiation of decision is preparatory to the true initiation of resurrection, the seventh initiation. And, of course, earlier, DK has referred to a kind of ascension, a kind of resurrection, which follows the crucifixion. But it's not the true initiation of resurrection. As a matter of fact, probably there's quite some adjustment of ideas that are necessary for us when we consider the seventh initiation, the initiation of resurrection, and the sixth, the ascension. And the ascension seems to keep on going through the resurrection. But at least it's an ascension out of the Brahmic worlds and into the world of the monad. Anything from the atmic plane on down is cosmically considered the Brahmic worlds of the cosmic physical plane. Okay. Excuse me. So, this decision can only be undergone when the will of the master is completely merged in that of the planetary logos. Okay. Now, I suppose they mean here the initiation of resurrection, would you say? It's preparatory to the seventh initiation, and this looks like the seventh initiation. There's quite a fusion of will, even before the sixth initiation can be really undergone. Between the sixth and seventh initiations, an interim of divine fusion takes place. Now, of course, we realize that Master DK, in a way, is writing speculatively about these things, with intuition and with reason and with knowledge that he understands as accurate. He himself has not experienced this interim, but he points the way for us to better understand. Between the sixth and seventh initiations, an interim of divine fusion. And notice the word is divine, not just spiritual, takes place. An elementary and somewhat distorted picture of this critical fusion is given to us in the New Testament, where we read of the experience of the Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane. So this involves as well the sixth initiation, and Christ also began the seventh initiation during that incarnation. Well, it wasn't really an incarnation, it was an overshadowing, it was a taking possession of, but the movement toward the seventh initiation began there as well. There again, as in the fourth initiation of renunciation, the human element of suffering is emphasized, whereas in the true symbolic garden, between the sixth and seventh initiations, there is no aspect of suffering. So this garden that the Christ found himself in was as the sixth initiation was being taken, where he acquiesced to the divine will, but could we really say it was a garden between the sixth and seventh initiation? It seems, when we think of gardens, it seems that we should compare it somewhat to the Garden of Eden, in which a certain type of unconsciousness was found. And now we have a tremendous planetary and perhaps even solar systemic consciousness and awareness in this other and much later state called a garden. So, who's Master DK writing for? Well, certainly he informs us about the future, but there's no way we can deal with this information in a practical way except to adjust our understanding of our destination and how to get there, and how to point the way for others who see the termination of human experience in some sort of fatuous astral heaven, which, of course, is untrue. So suffering and pain enter not into the consciousness of the master. He's still called a master, even though he's between the 6th and 7th initiation. It is a generic term. Where it says in the New Testament that angels came and ministered unto Christ, the correct implication is that those who dwell and work in Shambhala use this period to instruct the initiate who has made his decision through an expression of his divine nature and in the significance of the divine purpose. So, well, the angel of Capricorn was particular and is said to have come to have comforted the Christ, but obviously that kind of understanding is very human understanding, and we have here understanding on a much higher turn of the spiral. I have to read it again, you know, just to have a better chance at comprehension after, of course, highlighting it so that it looks more important. It is very important. Where it says in the New Testament that angels came and ministered unto the Christ, the correct implication is that those who dwell and work in Shambhala use this period, the garden period between the 6th and 7th initiations, to instruct the initiate who has made his decision through an expression of his divine nature, his monadic nature, because that is how the decision is made. It's made in the monad, and in the significance of divine purpose. And this concerns the relation of our planetary logos to the solar system. The consciousness is becoming solar systemic at this time. The consciousness of the rising initiate, maybe it should be capitalized, is becoming solar systemic. And a decision is made through the development of that higher sensitivity which leads inevitably to cosmic perception, I suppose, beyond perception of that which lies beyond our solar system. We have no adequate word for this quality of sensitivity. So he's taking us way beyond the sensitivity of the soul. He's taking us beyond the usual sensitivity of the monad within the solar system, and he is opening up for the 7th, 8th, 9th initiations a kind of cosmic possibility of cosmic perception, extra solar systemic perception. We have no adequate word for this quality or type of sensitivity, for it is not something we can consciously understand, and he's including himself probably with the word we. He's not there yet either, but of course he knows much more about it than we do. It is not something we can consciously understand, nor is it a form of conscious reaction. Neither is it awareness as we use that term. Now, maybe awareness as we don't use that term. There is something called, and he emphasizes it elsewhere, something called monadic awareness. And he doesn't refer to it as consciousness in the usual sense. Well, the monad is that which travels, you know, and that unit of beingness, and as it travels, it expands its cosmic perception. I suppose just as there comes a point when we leave the cosmic physical plane behind, in a way we're leaving the solar system behind as well. So, as TK says of himself, who knows what lies upon the cosmic astral plane? I do not, he says. There's something called monadic awareness. It has been occultly defined as something akin to, it's getting abstruse, isn't it? Immersion in a realized state of being. Okay, immersion in a realized state of being. And you know, there are some who think that once we realize what being is, that's the final realization, as if that which we call a human being or an extension of the monad can possibly realize ultimate states of being. I think it's just the beginning, really. So I think there are all these different possible realized states of being as we ascend and tread the way of higher evolution, which of course cannot be the end. It's simply the beginning of yet another treading on a still greater path until the summit of the universe is reached and one realizes oneself as the great and all-encompassing being. So this has to be studied deeply, you know. This is just a superficial exposure to it for you and for me. Higher sensitivity is being developed. We don't know a word for it. We can't consciously understand it. It's not a conscious reaction. It's not awareness as we usually use that term. We just don't have the language for it yet. You know, as he said, we don't have the language of the monad. It has been occultly defined as immersion in a realized state of being, and there are probably many of these because the initiate is a conscious aspect of that of which he forms an integral part. In other words, here we realize the truth of our higher and more expansive, inclusive identity. By means of this statement, you will see how impossible it is for me to explain certain things, to make clear certain unknown types of, now he uses the word consciousness, which is not ordinary consciousness, certain unknown types of consciousness, or to indicate areas of perception which lie beyond the ken of even a master such as he is. He's one of the more newly made masters since 1875, so all this was written, you know, maybe 70 years, you know, or so, 74, 75 years after he was made a master. It's still relatively early in his work between mastership and chohanship, but he certainly is in a position to know far more than we do and to indicate to us something that will occur, even though it's hopelessly impossible for us to understand in depth. Okay. I certainly do see how impossible it is to explain certain things. Revelation is a progressive matter. Disciples are not really able to understand the extensive significances of the third initiation, for instance. And that, you know, that's fairly imminent for a number of people, and yet it eludes real comprehension. Here now we're talking about the destiny of certain masters and that which lies ahead of them. In a like manner, even high initiates, such as masters, fail to comprehend that which lies plainly before them, and by implication, just as the third initiation lies plainly before many. Disciples can, however, dimly sense the nature of the transfiguration which characterizes them from a certain hierarchical point of view. You know, it is elevation onto the higher mental plane and preparation for a true polarization within the spiritual triad which occurs at the fourth degree. So disciples can, however, dimly sense the nature of the transfiguration, which I would say will characterize them from the hierarchical point of view. And masters can also dimly sense the nature of the decision with which they are faced. And now they are faced with it at the sixth initiation. It used to be the fifth. but now a certain amount of time must be spent in preparation for that decision. Everything continues to move upward in demand and difficulty. And, the master of the present time is in greater advance than the master of the Atlantean period, and so forth. It is this preparatory sensitivity in the disciple which produces true perception at all the various initiatory stages. Intuitive instinct, perhaps we can call it. We're always becoming more sensitive, and as we do, our sensitivity shows we are coming more under the Neptunian vibration, and Sirius, as well as the, quote, brilliant star of sensitivity. Well, I better keep those capitalized. Star of sensitivity. This is a statement of major importance and links sensitivity, its interpretation and control, with the everyday life of the ordinary disciple. So there is no initiation for us unless our sensitivity develops, and initiation will correspondingly increase that sensitivity. So there is no ordinary disciple. There is no initiation unless sensitivity continues to develop. Well, let's just say there is no successive sensitivity, successive initiation, unless sensitivity continues to develop. Really, to be an initiate is, in a way, an initiate of a certain degree indicates a certain degree of sensitivity, of possible responsiveness to energies which have always been present, but to which one has not yet been able to respond. It is important because of its inclusiveness and because each stage upon the path of initiation has in it the germ of comprehension and an understanding deeply hidden of the various steps which have to be taken upon the way of higher evolution. So we would look for an analogy. He has not told us of these steps upon the way of higher evolution, but in seed, our initiations hold a hint of those steps. Okay. Again, to read it, it is important because of its inclusiveness and because each stage upon the path of initiation, each stage, our initiatory path, has in it the germ of comprehension and an understanding deeply hidden of the various steps which have to be taken upon the way of higher evolution. So I'm going to emphasize that and hope that understanding of what is said there will deepen in my mind and in yours. Upon this way, the master intelligently embarks when he has made his final decision. Maybe there are some preliminary testings of decision. What if I did this? What if I did that? Foreseeing with this cosmic sensitivity, this cosmic intuition, what would be the result of proceeding along a certain path. Upon this way, the master intelligently embarks when he has made his final decision. Earlier stages are simply revelatory of the way. So there are preparations which the master undergoes as he looks forward to his final decision. Just as Master DK, you know, probably was definitely a master when he was writing this. And given that the time between initiations seems to expand as we go through the higher initiations, although for the Christ that is questionable. He's pursuing a very fast path, but it seems that the masters have quite a bit to do once they've taken the fifth initiation before they can really, with full confidence, make their great decision before the sixth initiation and at the sixth initiation. Initiation has been defined as a progressive sequence of directed energy impacts. Well, the sequential aspect of initiation is very strong, and the direction of the impacts has to do with one's energy system, and a person, a high initiate, is prepared by having the different aspects of his energy system activated as he proceeds in expanding his consciousness and preparing for the next great expansion of consciousness, which we call an initiation. A progressive sequence of directed energy impacts, and there are certainly energy impacts for which we are not yet ready, and those for which we are perhaps ready, and which will open doors to wider perceptions and greater powers if we assimilate these energy impacts in the right way. But of course, they're not really sent in our direction unless we can assimilate them, because the whole process of initiation is a scientific, exquisitely measured process, and it's not haphazard in any respect. These impacts are characterized by points of tension. So every time you have a new energy impact, the possibility of focusing at a higher point of tension is there, and that will lead to crisis, because our usual energy system is not fully adjusted or ready to receive these impacts. So, you know, the old three-step saying is crisis, tension, emergence. And I suppose emergence is the emergence into that higher vibratory state which characterizes the next expansion or the next initiation, although there are little ones along the way. And the whole process is governed by the law of cause and effect. It's kind of a fifth ray law in a way. We have to handle these points of tension. We're led into crisis. We stabilize at a point of tension. We hold the tension sufficiently to emerge on the other side at a vibratory rate which is characteristic of the next unfoldment. It is this latter point, the law of cause and effect, that I seek now to emphasize, because it has a definite and mysterious relation to this sixth initiation. I feel like I'm way over my head, you know. But if Master DK is looking at this in an anticipatory manner, then I suppose we can be excused for thinking that these things lie beyond us. But they have been written for us, and so we have to at least pass through them in an intelligent and hopefully perceptive manner. Okay, this point about the whole process is governed by the law of cause and effect. This has a definite and mysterious relation to the sixth initiation. The Master, as he makes his decision and chooses one of the 7 or now 9 paths which unitedly form the planetary antikarana, and that's very interesting, the way in which our planet can ascend. Our planetary logos can ascend via this sevenfold, ninefold bridge. As he chooses one of these seven paths, he's forced there too by the accumulation of past karma. This is very interesting, so it's one of the major factors in conditioning the free choice of the master in regard to his path on the way of higher evolution. All evil karma has necessarily been worked off, especially, the planetary karma, due to ignorance, the working off of the karma, which is due to ignorance, evil of a planetary nature, not a cosmic nature, but his accumulated good karma makes his final decision inevitable. He's developed certain abilities, certain conditions, certain powers. It points him in a certain direction, and maybe he has developed these abilities because he came down with along a certain path with a tendency to develop such abilities. Maybe as you look at yourself, we're a long way from this. What are you developing? What abilities are you developing which will send you along a certain cosmic path on the way of higher evolution? What are your profound interests? Even in the field of occultism, they are diversified. And you will achieve in terms of these interests, and you will do good. And this good that you have done, well, it makes the final decision inevitable. But notice the word final. The Buddha made a decision. This decision retained him within this planetary sphere probably for another 4,500 years. But maybe, it's not his final decision. As DK refers to the idea of wherever his service may take him. We're told about the future of the Christ, that the Buddha was to have taken the path to Sirius. We're also told, but he probably won't do that now, and the Christ is on the ray path, but will return somehow on this path of Sirius. So this is interesting because the ray path is the fifth, Sirian path is the fourth, so it's possible to transfer to a higher number or a lower number accordingly. So inevitable is the word, and we have to emphasize the word final, because apparently you can make a decision, and if you make a mistake, well, then it's not final, From that instant of decision, he stands instantly free and liberated from all aspects and from all forms of planetary karma. We think about Brahma, Saturn, the number 5, the previous solar system ruled by the number 5. This is a liberating moment from all aspects and all forms of planetary karma, which is greater and more vast than his little individual karma, be it good or bad, and he still apparently has it. When the people say, well, I'm done with all karma, we have to remember that karma is simply action. It's the conditions you have caused and which remain because you have caused them. Then you have to take further action to change those conditions. So, but he's even freed from all forms of planetary karma, unless, I suppose, he's chosen the path of Earth's service. And even then he may be free, but he has to deal with it unless he, capital, has chosen the path of Earth service. Let's see, path of Earth service, which is greater and vaster than his own individual karma, be it good or bad. He is then in himself the summation of all past experience, unless he deliberately, unless he deliberately chooses the path of Earth service and decides to remain within the field, scope, or influence of the planetary life. He faces a solar or a cosmic future about which he knows relatively little. So, maybe his final decision has something to do with our particular solar logos as a star, which itself is a heart center in a greater logos, but maybe he has quite a solar systemic task before he is released cosmically for other things. He faces a solar or a cosmic future of which he knows relatively little. So I'm interested that DK said solar or cosmic. Some are leaving the solar system, whereas it appears others are remaining with it, just the way those on the path of Earth service, those on the path of Earth service are staying with the planet. But no, eventually they will take the path on which the solar logos is found. Isn't that interesting? And that is the path of cosmic Buddhi. That's the path of starship, or eventual solar logoihood, something of that nature. So he faces the solar or cosmic future of which he knows relatively little, but for which the path of evolution, the path of discipleship, the path of initiation have fitted him. He's always prepared by the greater plan to face and deal with what lies ahead. Even he does not know the conditions into which his decision commits him. So there's the great adventure aspect here, Sagittarius connected with it in a higher sense. Outward bound, going towards who knows what, being an explorer, a discoverer of things which he cannot possibly yet know, or those into which he will have to penetrate. So conditions to which his decision commits him, and conditions into which he will have to penetrate. He does know, however, and appropriates the fact and the faculties, as one master expressed it, of complete revelation and future opportunity. So he knows that his consciousness as a venturing monad will expand tremendously until it's not even what we would call consciousness, and that even at this relatively early stage of involvement in the larger dimensions of the universe, it's filled with opportunity. Now I'm just going to take a little break here, and then I think continue. Obviously, we're into material which Master DK, with reason and speculation and intuition, prepares for us, but which he has not been the experiencer, not yet. And so this will be over our heads, no doubt. But it will certainly expand our sense of the possibilities and will give us a sense of direction which is true, rather than some false, childish, limited direction into which so many people seem to be heading because of the limitation of their thoughts with regard to future possibilities. We will know about some wonderful future possibilities which we will have to experience. and we can help guide others when they seem frustrated and when they think the whole scheme of living is futile, leading nowhere, leading to extinction, leading to paradise, leading to heaven. Those are we have to explain the transience, the impermanence of certain states which the limited mind of man have considered to be permanent. Heaven is not permanent. For heaven's sake, our planet is not permanent, and the heavens are associated with our planet. But, this is going to take the clear impartation of occultism. And that impartation is not easy, because the mind of man presently is not really prepared to receive it. DK has said, well, a great majority of people are not ready for occultism, but some are, and it will be for them a saving bridge into a reasonable, a possible, an inviting future. I'll just take a little break here for a moment. Well, let's move forward. You have often been told there are 4 lords of karma associated with the council chamber at Shambhala. With regard to karma, the numbers 4 and 3 continually appear. There are 4 Maharajas in our solar system, and Lapika lords seem to come in under the number 3. But anyway, 4 lords of karma associated with the council chamber at Shambhala on the logoic plane. They represent in their totality the 3 rays of aspect, and one of them represents the 4 minor rays of attribute. Interesting division. It is the Lord of Karma who implements the destinies of those who are conditioned by the 3rd ray of active intelligence, and this is ever the case with those who are taking the 6th initiation. We remember the 3rd ray rules this initiation. Just go to page 340 in this book, and you'll see the layout of the different rays and these higher initiations, and who, symbolically speaking, let's see what we have here. Symbolically speaking, wipes clean the slate of this particular group of initiates at this particular time. Karma no longer holds them, and let us say it is individual and planetary karma no longer holds them. It seems impossible not to generate karma that is appropriate to the new context in which one is moving. Even the planetary logos has karma, the solar logos, and so forth. And there's no reason to think that the still greater logoi do not on their own levels generate a certain type of karma. So 4 lords associated with the council chamber in Shambhala. Whoops. Alrighty. They represent the 3 rays of aspect, and one of them represents the 4 minor rays of attribute. Okay. He subsumes a 4ness under. So there are 4 with a subsumed 4. It is the Lord of Karma who implements the destinies of those who are conditioned by the 3rd ray of active intelligence. So the one who represents the 4 minor rays carries out the expression of destiny of those who are on the 3rd ray. And it is ever the case with those who are taking the 6th initiation, and who, symbolically speaking, wipes clean the slate of this particular group of initiates, so that they may be freer to pursue their path on the way of higher evolution. After all, there is a certain degree of freedom involved in this particular initiation, and we have at that high level a group called victors through clear, pure will. So the idea is that much is left behind. How this wiping of the slate occurs, well, we cannot imagine that, but there is a great degree of freedom in the choice and freedom to pursue a new method on the higher way. The revelation accorded to the initiate in the first stage of the initiation gives him a complete picture in a flash of endless time of the processes which have brought him to this creative moment of decision. Now again, DK is using these words which relate to the third ray, the word creative, and that the ray of creative intelligence, as it is called, is involved here. But this is an amazing phrase, a complete picture in a flash of endless time of the processes that have brought him to this creative moment. Okay. So these are things far beyond our ability to accomplish at this point, but this is what has come to DK, even if he has not yet taken this initiation. Immediately he achieves a point of tension which he will continue to hold until the 9th or final initiation. So this allows him, I suppose, to be a monad, focused as a monad within the higher levels of the cosmic physical plane, and to transit as a monad through a few initiations which lead him to a refusal to be associated anymore with the cosmic physical plane. So this point of tension is a very high one and manages to make accessible vibratory levels which are beyond the ken of a master. So immediately he achieves a point of tension which he will continue to hold until the final or 9th initiation, the initiation of refusal, wherein he rejects, refuses, or repudiates his entire past and enters upon his chosen path entirely free of recollected concepts. No, let there be no recollection, and yet let memory rule. This we find in the earlier rules. He's free of recollected concepts, but exhibiting to those great lives who welcome him upon the new and untried path all that he is and the essence of his being, so nothing is lost. And let's see what rule that is in. I think we can find that quickly. Raised initiations about 23 or so. Maybe the second rule, perhaps, or the third. Second rule. Let there be no recollection, and yet let memory rule. Work from the point of all that is within the content of the group's united life. So he loses nothing, but he does not recollect. It is no longer necessary to recollect the stepping stones which gave him these now inherent abilities which can function automatically. We make demonstration to lives still greater than our own, and these are lives beyond what we call maybe the initiations of the fourth creative hierarchy. Always there is a demonstration of what has been achieved and a recognition and a welcoming by those who invite onto the next path. We might say that recollection is very much like the stages of a rocket, which can be jettisoned as long as that which the event recollected, as long as that event has provided the necessary faculty, the necessary ability. So we rise in a way lighter and lighter with the essence of all we have achieved, but less encumbered by the particulars of the circumstances in which we achieved those abilities. Eventually, I mean, this is just the beginning. We can't call it the endless path. We can only call the path beginningless, endless path from universe to universe, the endless path. This is a path which ends with the ending of a particular universe. But really, onward, the great and only being goes forever. And there are just great mysteries connected with this whole subject about the intraversibility of infinity and the problems when we try to blend sequentiality with infinity. Okay, anyway, so a high point of achievement is there, and it is at the sixth that a state is established which holds until the ninth, and at the ninth initiation, the venture upon the cosmic astral plane becomes very real, and the impossibility of returning at this time anyway, unless much, much later, for objectives of service, the way we might say the solar angels returned from their path on the cosmic astral plane to Sirius. They returned and fell again into the cosmic physical plane. In dealing with these higher initiations, of which I myself have no experience, so there he says it again and in different places, there is naught for me to do but clarify your minds, and mine also, through the use of ancient phrases and the oral teaching which is permitted to escape into the minds of men. A rather low destination, but one which is useful for clarification of the mind of man. So Master DK, of course, is very reliable in these things. He's a great student of these matters. He knows and he understands with reason and intuition what lies ahead, but he is not yet, at this writing, a participant in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th initiation, though I think it can be said that somehow he is treading the path of earth service, at least at this point. Or at least destined to do so, it seems. But then that's a speculation, and there can be no certainty on that, because anyway, Sanat Kumara is retaining all 6th-degree initiates, and obviously masters as well, to help with the crisis now very evident on the planet. Initiatory crises and an initiatory crisis in the solar system as well. The point of crisis, whichever follows the attainment of tension, or sometimes it's said crisis, tension, emergence, sometimes tension, crisis, emergence, perhaps, is the expressed moment of the final decision. So is it crisis, tension, emergence? So often we see that sequence. Or is it, as here we see, tension, crisis, emergence? The word emergence has not really been used here. So it's crisis, tension, or tension, crisis. So the final decision is a point of crisis. And, you know, crisis relates to the crossroads. And at the crossroads, you have to choose, although there are an array of 7 before you. The point of crisis, whichever follows the attainment of tension, is the expressed moment of the final decision. And before that, of course, the whole group has offered a gift, probably a quite terrifying gift, to humanity and the planet, which will have some final and permanent effects on the planetary process. Then follows, after the choice is made, the revelation of what may be, and the initiate knows that he faces the final resurrection. Now, here he's talking about the 7th initiation, right? And that from being the eternal pilgrim or the planetary wanderer, he now becomes a fixed point upon another cosmic plane, for the physical is for him eternally left behind. Now, maybe this is actually the 9th initiation. The 7th initiation is called the resurrection, but the 9th fixes us upon another and higher cosmic plane. Okay. And instead of being the eternal pilgrim and the planetary wanderer wandering down through the Brahmic realms, he becomes a fixed point on another cosmic plane because the physical is left eternally behind. Well, unless for reasons of service. The cosmic physical plane is eternally left behind unless for reasons of returning service, as the solar angels in their sacrificial intent have done. They were schooled upon the cosmic astral plane in relation to Sirius, at least when that path is now discussed. It's considered a cosmic astral path, and yet they have fallen into the cosmic physical plane, refallen, and even further into the lower part of the cosmic physical plane, that is, into the lower mental plane and the into the lower 21 planes, which are the subplanes, which are the physical body of the solar and planetary logos, or at least of the solar logos. What to do with the higher mental plane and whether to call it part of the physical body of our planetary logos is a question. But generally, the 21 lower subplanes are considered the physical body of the solar logos, and certainly the 18 lower subplanes are, at least they, are considered the physical body of the planetary logos, leaving these transitional subplanes of the higher mental plane in a somewhat ambiguous position with respect to the planetary logos. This initiation is therefore governed by the 3rd ray, the ray of intelligent activity, or we call it the ray of creative intelligence or abstract mind. This ray is closely related to the mental plane of our planetary life, to the law of fixation. Now that's the 5th systemic law, and the law of cleavages under the 5th ray. So let's put here the number 5 is pronounced in these two laws. So the mental plane of our planetary life, that's probably a systemic plane, but if we go to our planetary life and we look at his real mental body, it's going to be on the lower and higher cosmic mental plane. So much anent this I have written earlier, and a search for the significance of certain passages in a treatise on cosmic fire may bring enlightenment. Well, remember, that's a book that is written for initiates, and in some of the earlier literature, when you face an experience called enlightenment or illumination, it has to do with the third or transfiguration initiation, which is an initiation pertaining to the realm of mind, preparatory to the next initiation, which deals with the triad and with intuition. Fixation, interestingly, is not permitted to the eternal pilgrim, the monad, upon our little planet, the Earth. Well, we're a non-sacred planet, you know, and our planet has not lasted or will not last throughout the entire solar system, as Venus does, and maybe some other sacred planets. So we cannot find here on this planet as monads an abiding place. We have to go to other and sacred planets, and we have to journey as monads to star systems, and eventually find ourselves within the Pleiades themselves. And we could say, well, that's the end, but nothing is the end until the universal logos has completely retracted all of its emanations. So fixation is not permitted to the eternal pilgrim, who is the monad, upon our little planet, the Earth, but when that is left behind entirely at the 9th initiation, and the initiate becomes a fixed or stationary point of light within his chosen place, the place of the Most High, who is, by the way, the Sanat Kumara, and the point of fire upon the mountaintop, and from that point he will no more go out. Now, I suppose that going out has to do with return to the cosmic physical plane. And there are aspects of Sanat Kumara, or of the Planetary Logos, which are obviously cosmic, and in his higher vehicles he does not require the cosmic physical plane. So these things from the old commentary, you know, they're very deep, and, you know, we can only hope that we can interpret them with some degree of understanding. So we cannot fix ourselves on the planet or on the cosmic physical plane, but there are aspects of the planetary scheme which are not considered the solar system, but which somehow are still connected with the planet. They are cosmic aspects. So we are, you know, some may be fixed. What is the place of the Most High? Well, there is the Most High, who is in manifestation on the cosmic physical plane, but there are also aspects of the Most High which are, in a sense, outside the solar system, outside the cosmic physical plane, and are on the cosmic planes. You know, the monad ventures along the cosmic astral plane on some paths and makes its way to the cosmic mental plane on other paths, there to venture and on one path about which we don't know much about path 8 and 9, don't know anything really, ventures to the cosmic Buddhic plane. And how long this takes, we have no idea, but just think about the duration of a solar system. We're told some 311 trillion years. 311 trillion 40 billion years, and we're halfway through. So if the chronology is accurate and we're really dealing with trillions of years, it seems we have plenty of time, trillions of Earth years, that is. The concept of cleavage is latent here also. You know, this is a fifth ray concept, the law of cleavages, a fifth ray concept. And there's something going to be written here, about the law of cleavages, of course. Let's see if I can find anything just for fun. Law of cleavages. Well, there are three instances of that. So it shows the fifth ray operating in connection with the law of cleavages. The fifth ray energy operates in connection with the law of cleavages. There it is. And here we are in the particular paragraph where we find ourselves now. This sixth initiation dealing with the third ray, but also with a ray related to the third, that is the fifth, which in a way is the third from below. So, excuse me. The concept of cleavage is also latent here, also. The master, yes, this is the refusal, The master severs all connection with the past and with the planet, but never with the one life, which permeates all spheres and forms of being, which makes possible all states of consciousness and leads to endless activity. So a severing occurs with the past. But all that has been gained is retained in an essential form. Now, we can only imagine what kind of time lies before us in order to achieve a ninth initiation, when the ultimate severing occurs. There's kind of a severing from the Brahmic planes at the sixth initiation. They are no longer men, as are the masters, and they are beyond the specific impress of hierarchy. They are now in association with a higher center, namely Shambhala. Creativity was one of the three words which I gave you earlier, see page 340, okay, in connection with this sixth initiation. So let's go there just for, confirmation. Three words are given for each initiation, and fixation, intelligent cooperation with purpose, I suppose, divine purpose. Fixation upon a particular path, I suppose, and fixation as a point of tension to complete the 9 initiations which are associated with the initiations of the human monad in connection with our planet or our particular stream of initiations, even if other planets are involved. And creativity, how is he going to look at this? This fixation relates to the fifth ray, intelligent cooperation, who knows, maybe the third ray, creativity, to the third ray, particularly, creative intelligence, but also to the fourth ray. Okay, so creativity was one of the three words which I gave to you. He says, the final 4 initiations are all distinguished by a revelation in the living light. 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, these are words. Revelation in the living light. In a way, light is matter. Light is a manifestation of that which is unmanifest. We have the great unmanifest absolute deity and its absolute infinitude, and it comes forth in limited light, which is living and which is a universe. At the 6th initiation, the master is brought to an understanding of the nature of creation, of the reason for the intelligent manifestation of substantial forms, and their creation to provide forms for being and for life, and of the quality of that which he in the future must and will create. Well, that's a potent little section, and obviously any of this could lead to long discussion. Revelations in the living light, all of the final four initiations, really outside the Brahmic worlds. So let's just say the truly living light resides, if we can say, outside the five Brahmic worlds, from the atmic plane on down, so to speak. At the sixth initiation, the master is brought to an understanding of the nature of creation. Well, creation has so much to do with the third ray, the devising of forms so that something may be expressed, of the reason for the intelligent manifestation of substantial forms. Well, one could get into that. There is a need for any God to externalize itself and then retract the externalization. That's even what the greatest of all non-beings does. It externalizes a portion of itself as a universe. So the reason for intelligent manifestation of substantial forms and their creation to provide forms, limitations, for being and for life. Is there a difference between being and life? I don't know. Sometimes they can be equated, I would say. He also learns of the quality of that which he in the future must and will create. We do have a creative aspect to ourselves. We have a consciousness aspect, and we have a abiding will aspect. And even more important is the pure being out of which all of this comes and which we are. Well, very, very high things, All we can do is somewhat use the abstract mind to speculate upon these matters. They don't have to do a whole lot with anything specific in the world of form. At the seventh initiation of resurrection, he is accorded a revelation of the quality which must express itself through all created forms. It is an initiation ruled by the second ray, and we know that the soul is the quality of life. Life, quality, and appearance is a triplicity, and the appearance is created and relates to the third ray. Quality relates to the second ray, and the life relates more to the first ray, though perhaps life is even more than that. He's accorded a revelation. See, these are revelations in the living light. What are these revelations in the living light? He's giving us a bit of an idea. Okay. The quality of love wisdom which has animated because that's anima is soul. Interesting how he uses words. Just watch carefully his use of words, because they carry the hints of what he is trying to convey, which has animated our planetary logos and is the basic quality of our entire solar system. Our soul ray on this planet, second ray, soul ray for the solar system, second ray, and maybe the ultimate monadic ray as well for our solar system, the second ray. In other spheres and in other solar systems and on other cosmic planes, other qualities unknown to us may be demonstrated by the appropriate initiates, those who have attained a point of tension on those levels and can thereby express. Those who have attained the necessary point of tension on those higher levels and can therefore well, no, express on those levels and in relation to those levels. But those who attain resurrection, seventh, and liberation upon our planet will always be spiritually qualified by a divine love. It's not the monadic ray, but it is the soul ray, and that apparently is enough to qualify them by divine love, and that will also be the underlying quality of all that they may later create when freed from our planet. So interestingly, at these high initiations, they, the liberated ones, are qualified by divine love, the soul quality, soul quality of our planetary logos. You can see, therefore, why the phrase God is love is really our planetary keynote. I had always thought it was the solar deity about whom the statement was made, God is love, and it would be accurate, of course, because there is the ongoing second ray soul of our solar logos, but we have the ongoing second ray soul of our planetary logos as well. And even though our planetary logos has the first ray monad and may express in a manner more characteristic of God's will in the next solar system, at least now, God is love holds. So that is illuminating to me. God is love for, how about that? God is love for both the solar logos and our planetary logos in this solar system. So we're learning about revelations in the living light. We are so far beyond the capability of any practical application that it's almost humorous, but at the same time, we are clarifying our minds about the destination that we as monads will take, and that's very, very important because man suffers now from a very distorted and cramped idea of his universal destination, or his destination ongoingly in his immortal state. So, occultism explains so much, which average religious presentation meant mostly for those on the probationary path cannot explain, will not explain, does not explain. And of course, to get these things across without being suspected or rejected or persecuted or whatever, is no easy matter. At the 8th initiation of transition, the purpose of all our planetary activity is revealed to the master. The monad is more fully revealed at the 4th, and the purpose of all the planetary activity, which I suppose goes back to previous solar systems and into the future, is revealed to the master, and all masters are initiates of this 8th initiation, working either through the hierarchy or in Shambhala, so they have a choice, are needed at this initiation so as to stimulate the point of tension of the new initiate in order to make the revelation possible. Wow. So, just as the 6th degree initiates, 2nd degree initiate, okay. 6th degree initiates together gave the drastic gift of their united meditation. Oh, how about that? So, the 8th degree initiates, not used to writing about them, degree initiates make revelation possible. This particular revelation of the purpose, make revelation of the purpose of our planetary logos possible. You know, when there's a sufficient concentration of great spirits, the point of tension is raised and can raise the point of tension of the newly made initiate. And that is the, okay, I just want to make this a little smaller so it can be seen, huh? Right. Okay. So we'll repeat. At the 8th initiation of transition, now obviously is suggested here some kind of transition between the cosmic physical plane and cosmic astral plane. I've told myself or conceived that at the 7th initiation one is really receptive to the cosmic astral plane, but at the 8th initiation one can go there but comes back. You know, it's like a loop, and like the figure 8 with the cross point of the 8 right at the juncture between the cosmic physical and cosmic astral. By the 9th initiation, you're over the top and you don't return. The purpose of all our planetary activity is revealed to the master. Notice the word master is still used. And all masters are initiates of this 8th initiation, beyond the Christ at this point, even beyond the Buddha, and obviously not from our earth chain by any means, working either through the hierarchy or in Shambhala, are needed at this initiation so as to stimulate the point of tension of the new initiate in order to make revelation possible. Now we remember at the 6th degree a certain point of tension was achieved which takes the initiate through the latter 4 initiations, but there's no reason why that point of tension cannot be intensified when necessary. What's he telling us here? It might be said that they act as a lens through which the living light, these are revelations of in the living light, through which the living light flows, which makes revelation possible. And they also fulfill the need of acting as a protecting factor, because whenever there's new revelation, one has to be very, very careful of how much of the revelation is bestowed, even at that high level. I dare say that a solar logos could not pour all that is revealed to it into the consciousness of a planetary logos. There would be a destruction of the form. So they act as a lens and they act as protectors. And note the theme of revelation in the living light continues. That's what we're dealing with here, you know, things that are, well, you know, laughably beyond our comprehension. But like I say, it's been written and it's been published and it's been given to us. So the very least we can do is to somehow make our way through this material, gathering what clarity we can. This protection is needed because at this initiation, the initiation has shown not only the eternal good underlying planetary purpose, but he is allowed to see that which is hidden behind the fast-sealed door and be in touch with cosmic evil, for it can no longer hurt him. Oh my. He is allowed to see. Now this is interesting because the number 8 is coming up, right? The number 8 is related to Scorpio and hence to evil of various kinds. That doesn't mean Scorpio is an evil sign, but certainly it tends to make visible hidden evil at various levels, which people don't suspect exists. Scorpio Plutonic person digs into these hidden things, and they are revealed. So the number 8 somehow has to do with the higher and the lower, and the revelation of that which is behind the fast sealed door. Now, we're supposed to seal the door where evil dwells with respect to the etheric plane, eventually the astral, eventually the mental, but we're talking about probably a sealing of something that exists on the cosmic astral plane. This may well be a sealing of the evil which exists on the cosmic astral plane, the true home of the cosmic Black Lodge. He needs, nevertheless, the protection of those with whom he has fitted himself to associate. And you know, you have to choose your associates wisely, as the Tibetan has said, because, as the Buddha has said, because if you do not, you will be compromised by those that you would choose to associate with, and retarded. But if you keep good company, it is elevating. So that's another discrimination. That doesn't mean to lord it over people and to somehow, act better than they are, because there is great equality in the spirit, but just to be wise in time and space about your associations. The masters do not hang out in the bars, and they find going through the products of human civilization very stultifying, and more than one has suffered in his physical vehicle because of it, as we are told. So he needs the protection of those with whom he has fitted himself to associate. And isn't it interesting, even on these very high levels, protection is needed. So let us not be arrogant, we on lower levels, when we are told that we need protection, as in the case of the glamour meditation, where we make the sign of the cross of divinity involving the eyes. It is a protective formula, and we need it. We need it on those levels. I'm trying not to go too far and to stop at 2 hours. I think it will be enough. What the planetary purpose is, I know not. Okay. Now, goodness, he knows so much more than we do, and we speculate about what the planetary purpose may be. It has something to do with light, I suppose, and the fact that it is the base of the spine center in relation to the solar logos has something to do with cosmic kundalini, but I suppose here he means the specifics of the planetary purpose, which must not fall into the hands of the Black Lodge, else they could intelligently thwart the divine plan. When I say that part of the purpose is to liberate light and love into a wider universe and to free the solar system from the attacks of cosmic evil, I am stating a truth, but a truth which remains as yet meaningless to those who have not been put in touch with the completed purpose. So at least some of the purpose is here to liberate light and love into the wider universe, maybe the light of the third ray, the love of the second ray, and the wider universe considered as the solar system. Perhaps the word universe is interesting because it doesn't necessarily mean the grand entirety, the entire universe. Okay, and to free the system and to free the solar system. I think we're dealing with the solar system from the attacks of cosmic evil. And so it tells us something about even what our own base of the spine center might be able to do in our own system. It is a center of will. It has great power, and it can be expulsive of these things, and it can clear the way so that we can radiate light and love into our surroundings. He says, I am stating a truth here, but it's not meaningful to those who have not been put in touch with the completed purpose. And let's just say DK does not know the completed purpose, nor can any master, and probably only when the eighth initiation, I wonder if I can do that, EI, and we'll call it the EIGH initiation, EIGH, okay. Only when the eighth initiation is taken is that planetary purpose, is that planetary purpose revealed. All right, it remains a mystery. For the true nature of light, the nature of electricity, the constitution of the good, the beautiful and the true, the origin of evil, the nature and purpose of the Black Lodge, the place which that lodge plays within the divine scheme of things, because it is part of the plan of the solar logos, even if not of the planetary logos, are all unknown to you in their essential significance. So these are the things we do not know, and it helps to know what we do not know. What is the true nature of light? This objectivity, light is matter. I mean, what is the true nature? The mystery of electricity, the circulation between the poles, the constitution of the good, the beautiful, and the true. These are great beings, we are told. What is their constitution? This is so abstract, far beyond us. The origin of evil. It's not going to be what we suspect. The nature and purpose of the Black Lodge, for the solar logos, it has a purpose. Not so much for the planetary logos. The place which that lodge plays within the divine scheme of being, especially in relation to our solar system, are all unknown to you in their essential significance. We have some little generalizations we can make, just like that idea of our planet producing a station of light within the solar system. Remember that when a member of the hierarchy uses the word essential, he does not mean, as you oft do, that which is needed or necessary. He is referring to the inmost essence. Okay, well, I think we understand that occult reference, which is found at the heart of all things, both the good and the evil. So being, in a way, is the inmost essence, but he perhaps is discussing something one step short of being in that respect. Therefore, when I say to you also that at this eighth initiation the nature and the purpose of duality is revealed to the initiate, it is again meaningless. Interesting, fourth initiation solves the problem of sex, which is duality. And if you look at the number 8, the duality is absolutely portrayed with the two, well, they're not exactly circles, but at the crossing point, that which is above and that which is below, duality is conveyed. So the 8th is double the 4th and has to do with the revelation of the purpose of duality. Well, let's see, friends. It's about 2 hours into it, and I think what we can do is say that this is the end of Raise and Initiation Webinar Commentary number, number 100, and it takes us up to page, up to page 727, and began on 718, I believe. And next will be the beginning of Raise. No, do it this way. Sorry. Beginning of Raise and Initiation Webinar Commentary number 101. And we'll begin at page 7. beginning Raise Initiation Webinar Commentary, page 727 and onward. Whenever that may be, whether later today, I would very much like to finish this for you if I possibly can. And yet there's still 52 pages of print, which means even more pages in the text. So I hope it's possible to finish before the beginning of the year. Anyway, this takes us to 2 hours approximately, quite close to 2 hours. And we will proceed after this, dealing with very, very abstruse matters which introduce, I'm sure for most of us, entirely new thoughts, entirely new ideas, which we have to try to understand and place in relationship with the ideas and thoughts of which we are more certain. So we'll see you on the next one with 101, page 727, and so forth. See you then. Many blessings. Talk to you before long.